It's Torah Tuesday, and today we're going to be talking about the story of Moses and the women at the well in Exodus chapter 2. We're in the second half of the chapter, and what you may not have noticed before is that this is a type scene. Now, a type scene is an incident in which the narrator is telling the story in such a way that we are to think of other times where something like this has happened. So you might remember in the book of Genesis, Isaac's wife is found at a well, Jacob finds his wife at a well, and now we have Moses, and he indeed finds a wife at a well. So we're supposed to think of these in light of each other. I am drawing here on a really great article by Michael Martin in Catholic Biblical Quarterly, where he talks about the betrothal type scene. He identifies 12 different things that happen in a typical betrothal scene, and here they are. I'm going to read them for you. Number 1, the groom travels to a foreign country. Number 2, he meets a woman or women at the well. Number 3, someone draws water. Number 4, a gift or service is given that bonds him to her family. Number 5, he reveals his identity. Number 6, the woman rushes home with the news. Number 7, there's some kind of greeting or invitation from the family to the prospective groom. Number 8, the betrothal is arranged. Number 9, the groom lives with the bride's family. Number 10, the groom returns to his place of origin. Number 11, the groom is received by his family at home. And number 12, the groom resides there. Now, what's really interesting about type scenes is that if you set these scenes alongside each other, you'll find that most type scenes will have most of the elements, but there may be something missing. And if a scene fits the pattern exactly except for one piece, you can guarantee that that piece is of some significance. And that is certainly true in the case of Moses and the women at the well, because the missing piece in that scene is number 5. Moses never reveals his identity to the women. So when they run back to their family, to their father, and tell about this man that they've met, they describe him as an Egyptian. They think he's an Egyptian, and he hasn't corrected them because he hasn't told them who he was. Now, Michael Martin says this is the central concern of this entire narrative is, who is Moses? What is his true identity? So by paying attention to the type scene and the part that's missing, we're actually zeroing in on the part about Moses that's most interesting, and that is he doesn't know who he is. And if you trace through the chapter and see how other people describe him and how the narrator describes him, you'll find that there's all sorts of different perspectives that can't really be reconciled. So for example, in verse 6, when the daughter of Pharaoh finds him, she calls him a Hebrew baby. And in verse 11, he goes out to his own people and sees the Egyptian beating the Hebrews. So in some sense, there's a recognition that he belongs with the Hebrews. But in verse 14 of chapter 2, he's rejected by those people who are supposed to be his family. And then we have the women at the well calling him an Egyptian in verse 19. And then a really interesting moment in verse 22. After Moses has married Zipporah and she gives birth to their first son, it says in verse 22, Zipporah gave birth to a son, and Moses named him Gershom, or Gershom, saying, I have become a foreigner in a foreign land. Now the name Gershom sounds like the Hebrew for Ger-sham, foreigner there. But at this point, as readers, we ought to be wondering, where is he a foreigner? Is he referring to the fact that he doesn't quite belong in Midian? Or is he referring to the fact that he never did quite belong in Egypt either? He started off, probably before his memory, he started off with the Hebrews, but then spent his childhood presumably with the Egyptians in the palace, because later he goes out to his own people. He has to go out to them. But he clearly doesn't belong in the palace or with his fellow Hebrews. So he has become a foreigner. Did he by identifying with the Hebrews, did he become a foreigner in his own Egyptian family? Or by joining the Egyptians, did he become a foreigner to his own people? Or by moving to the Midianites, is he now the foreigner? You can see that Moses is wrestling with his sense of identity. He's a hybrid personality. He doesn't really belong anywhere. And this question will not be resolved for us until chapter 3, when Yahweh speaks up and tells Moses who he is. So we'll have to stay tuned for more insights from chapter 3 about Moses' identity. But for now, I hope you're intrigued by this concept of a type scene. And if you want to chase something down this week, go check out the story of Jesus and the woman at the well and see how well it stacks up with these 12 criteria that we normally see in a betrothal type scene. All right, have a great week.